So, well, first of all, thank you very much for the organization for putting together this event. I'm Marc Ebri. I'm responsible for what we call strategic projects and processes, which is a little bit a strange name for a job. But basically, what I'm doing is basically leading the whole project execution and strategic execution of Zurich in Spain. No. Basically, well, this is a short presentation of the company. Basically, we are an insurance multinational company. We work basically in 210 countries and territories around the world. And we do any line of business except for health at a global level, from retail customers to small businesses, companies, and large corporations. So we do basically anything. In Spain, we have more than 130 years of experience in the Spanish market. We've come from the merge of different companies during this time. And we actually right now operate with the brand Zurich in Spain, but also we've got joint ventures with Bank Sabadell. So you buy an insurance product from Bank Sabadell, it's our product also. We also have got a joint venture with Deutsche Bank, basically with life as well as pension plans type of products. And also we've got a different brand called Clean, which is a brand we launched last year and is basically aiming for millennial people, and basically it's type of like insurance product or product solutions, insurance product solutions based on the lifestyle of the millennials. So also we've got distribution through our most traditional channels, basically brokers and agents, as well as a lot of partners in automotive and other banking partners. So basically, if you buy most of the insurance products that are distributed through car manufacturers, you've got a good chance that it's going to be with Zurich. Okay. In Spain, we've got around 2,000 employees. We insured 85% of the IBEX 35 corporations, and we've got more than 3 million policies, 2.4 customers. So it's quite a significant company. So basically, what I wanted to explain to you here is why we're doing this journey and what we are doing to solve it. So why we're doing this is because basically our environment is changing, and it's changing very quickly. So we've got a lot of changes with our customers. So if I remember 10 years ago, basically you had very basic insurance products, household, especially in the retail sector. You've got household, you've got motor, and you didn't have a lot of changes. Basically, it was a commodity, and it was basically on price. 10 years ago, the whole, or a little bit more, the whole direct channel grew in Spain, but also in other parts of the world. And that put a lot of more information on prices and coverage to the customer. So basically, the customer got much more expert in what they were buying. But that was only the beginning of what is going to happen in the next few 5 to 10 years, okay? So what we are seeing is that our customers are changing, the needs our customers have are changing, so the insurance solutions are changing also. This means that nowadays you've got people renting houses through Airbnb, or you've got ride sharing with Uber or Cabify, etc., etc. All of this is changing our environment in terms of like what kind of insurance solutions we need to provide to our customers. It's not only this, but also the distribution channels are changing. So in the past, we used to distribute by brokers and agents. Nowadays, we distribute also with direct digital business. But in the future, we are going to distribute a lot through what we are calling, and I'm pretty sure you also know, ecosystems. That means that the boundaries between the different industries are changing. So before, we used to do insurance products, and the car manufacturer used to manufacture cars, or at least assembly the cars. Nowadays, the car manufacturer is manufacturing the car, assembling the car. Well, maybe not manufacturing because they outsource all of that. but they are assembling the car, but then they sell you the credit for the car, and then they do the insurance for you also, and now they want to get into mobility, So they are trying to get the whole ecosystem of how we will move in the future. So all of this is changing, and it's going to change the way we operate with our customers and distributors, as well as what kind of solutions we are having to serve the needs of our customers. Also, new risks are appearing in the insurance ecosystem, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you know a lot about the impact of cyber risk in small and medium-sized companies and how this is evolving. So these are new risks also that are changing, that risks that we don't have experience in. So it is changing the way, the kind of products and how we need to operate with those products. Also regulation, I mean, GDPR also it's quite normal in any industry. Basically, the whole regulation of how we deal with our with the personal data of our customers is going to put a lot of limitations in the way we operate, and we need to look for new solutions. IDD, basically information directive around how we should inform our customers based on the 2008 financial crack. So it's going to change the way we need to present the information to our customers and the kind of engagement that we have with them, not only us, but also with our distributions and our distributors with them. Solvency 2, it's basically like Basilea, and we've got also PSD2 as open banking. So all of this is going to change the way, I mean, it's going to limit in some ways the way we operate with our customers and what we can do with them. It is also sometimes opening new opportunities of business and touch points and in relation with our customers, such as PSD2, that can open a new paradigm in order to find new ways of business with our customers. Competitors are changing very rapidly too. We've got since the technological companies that actually has more information about our customers than we do have. So we don't know if they are going to want to enter some of the insurance business. We've got insurtechs or startups of the insurance ecosystem. We've got a huge flow of money from or capital from investment to startups. And a few years ago, they were basically focused on the direct channels and how they build new direct channels with the customers. Nowadays, they are in the whole value chain of the insurance company. So they are finding competitive advantages in the whole insurance chain. Okay, so basically that is going to disrupt, and you never know if one of these new insure companies are going to be the one that is going to take a good part of the cake. And then also, our distributors and suppliers, the most traditional ones, are also changing the way to operate. We were saying before that the car manufacturers are breaking the boundaries of what is the perimeter of their business and doing other things. These guys, since agents, brokers, and also service companies, they are also expanding their reach in terms of the value chain of the insurance company. And all of this is going to disrupt our ecosystem as well as the technology. This is basically all of this is powered by new technologies from artificial intelligence, robotics, big data, which is changing the game. It's basically making all of this much easier than it was before. So this is basically the perfect storm for a sector, for an industry. And this is now the time for the insurance industry, we believe. Having said that, what should we do with that? Basically, we don't know what we have to do, but we know we have to act, and we have to act quickly. Well, the answer of the executive committee was you need to double your investment in technology, basically in 2 or 3 years. Even this is a little bit more, even not only 2. And when we have this, is we need to do more things and quicker, and we need to add more value into what we are doing. so that we can respond to the market quicker and actually responding to the changes into what is happening at an industry level. No? So how we solve this, and that was the question that we were asking ourselves a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago. And then we believe that part of the solution is basically being a more agile company. As I said before, we are a company that has like 130 years of experience in Spain, even more at the group level. And it is not easy to change the mindset of like 130 years of people doing things in a certain way. It's quite difficult, actually. And it's not only this, but as you see, we are a company that have like the Zurich business, but then we have joint ventures with different companies, we've got different brands, et cetera, et cetera. We go through a distribution market with our brokers and agents. It's quite a complex, and then on top of that, it's 2,000 people in total in Zurich in Spain. So it's quite complex. So we believe that if we wanted to do that, we couldn't do that only by implementing new tools and processes. What we believe is that it has to be a change of the mindset of the people. So we need to act not only from the IT part, or we've got to act as a company globally in terms of like changing the way we actually do our projects and actually deliver the return to our investments. No? So we see agile or more than agile business agility in terms of like how we deliver in a holistic view, basically putting some tools and processes, but also changing the principles, the values, and the mindset of the company. We started this journey a year and a half ago, so we are pretty new in this, and probably we are still at the beginning of what we are doing. But to translate this into something which is actionable, what we did is like we created 4 factors. The two at the top, they are basically the hard part of the factors. The 2 at the bottom is basically the soft part of those factors that are actually enablers of the other 2. No? But basically, we have started to experiment working with Kanban, design thinking, and Scrum, basically not as isolated, but sometimes in a collaborative way. Also, we have been working on creating new multidisciplinary teams. Basically, we've got one team in one part of the company, and we are extending that to another team, which we are, I would say, midway to what we want to be. And then as enablers, we thought it is not possible to work in a different way if we have the spaces that we had like 20 years ago. And it is very clear if you go to a school nowadays, the way they are set up schools at least in Barcelona, are completely different to the way that most of us learn in a school. The spaces in the schools have changed radically. So basically, if we want to work in a different way, we need to find spaces that are more collaborative, especially because those guys that are 5 to 10 years old now, in 15 years, they will not understand how to work in a desk. They will work in a different way. And then also the culture. I mean, it's 130 years of experience in Spain. This means we need to change some things. It means changing profiles of people, changing the way of work, working more on co-creation, changing how we measure things and how we do it visually for everyone, and also creating this sense of urgency into the company. Because without that sense of urgency, we will not be able to make all the changes that we want to make as quickly as we want to make, and actually creating the value. You know? So our lessons learned about these 4 things is we've been working with the 3 Kanban. It's a little bit different from design thinking and Scrum, but basically the power of Kanban is that it allows us to put together the upstream and the downstream of the process and of the value. and then change the process from a push process to a more pull process. So we are using it basically in a lot of, I think we've got 4 or 5 Kanbans right now. But we have Kanban implemented basically not to create an asset, because sometimes when we have like big projects with a lot of or with dates, etc., it's very difficult to actually create something more based on continuous improvement and evolution. So we don't always use it, but then it helps us to understand much better the prioritization of the upstream and how this relates to the downstream. Other things, we've been using design thinking sometimes, basically in the creation of new products. We have renewed the whole product base in these 3 years, and what we see is that we are using it, and we've got some problems sometimes, because especially in the way we iterate in those more traditional channels. When we are trying to distribute in traditional channels, it is a little bit difficult to have the more iteration of the solution, no? And Scrum, basically, we are using it as a way of delivery, and I will talk a little bit more about that later on in the next slide. But basically, in all our digital projects, because we've got a different platform and it's easier to integrate. But the real change, it's about how we do from an organizational perspective. I think I was talking to Chavez on Mango, because I found very interesting what they are doing, or what he was explaining in terms of like organization. And we have started to do some of this, but we need to change this and to scale this much more, no? So basically, we've got, well, there are 2 setups here, but basically it's 3. We've got like the regular setup, which is all the back office part that we work with our processes and with our methods without changing anything. And then we've got 2 experiments. We've got the experiment number 1, which basically are projects that are working within the current processes, organization, and existing services. But we are introducing Kanban on those. We've got 4 or 5 of those. And what we see is a list that we have an improvement in our lead times, delivery lead times. And we have started to make decisions based on the information that Kanban is providing us in terms of allocation of resources, or in terms of like if we need to integrate some services into that piece of work, or limit the WIP, etc., etc. But still, the impact of that is quite limited. On the other hand, the experiment number 2 is for all the digital solutions. We have taken and we have separated that from the company, and we have created a multidisciplinary team, which they have a reporting line, a solid reporting line to the functions, but they work as a team, and they've got a common objective. And we have been able to shorten our delivery cycle in terms of like product from, I would say, 80% of the time. So it takes 80% less time to build a product with this setup that it was taking to build it in the regular setup. Obviously, there are other things, like when you are dealing with traditional distribution, it is more difficult to make some MVPs and then evolution there, because you've got someone that is in the middle between you and the customer that also is part of the conversation. But having said that, the organization of a multidisciplinary team focus on the value stream, focus on what are the customer needs, and how we bring solutions to those customer needs. It has proven to be a good solution, and we are thinking to scale this up in other teams. We've got another one now basically for the motor product, but we are thinking to expand that much more in 2020. Lessons learned about that, I think most of you will have heard of most of them. For me, it's having a common purpose and someone that is actually very, very much driven to make this happen. Otherwise, it's very difficult to break the silos of the company, you know? And then having the support of the top management is also very, very important. This team is currently working, it's half-half actually. It's a Scrum, but then we've got this supplier, and then sometimes we get some problems in managing the way we've got our deliveries with the supplier because they are not used to work in Scrum. But at the same time, we are working on it. But I think just the value of, and that's, I think it's important also, it's saying it's not only if you apply the method, I think if you change the way you operate and you change and you build teams, multidisciplinary teams, which doesn't mean that they don't need to be reporting to their areas. They still report to their areas, but they have a common purpose. There is someone which is driven and it's following the value, the flow of the value for the customer. They are much more powerful in delivering something for our customers. After this, well, spaces we have completely changed our buildings. We have started with our building in Barcelona, and we are changing also building in Madrid in terms of like the setup of the building. That's very important because these teams are working in a more collaborative way. So before we used to have like large meeting rooms, but just a few. Now we've got smaller meeting rooms, but much more. We've got different types of meeting rooms. We've got one-to-one meeting rooms. We've got large meeting rooms, but much less. And then we've got different open spaces like concentration space and other type of spaces for communication or even to hang out a little bit more. This is probably, it's just an enabler, but I think it is also very important in terms of like changing the mindset of the people. We don't believe that we can make this change without making the change in the mindset. And then in terms of culture, I think we've seen in a lot of the conference before all the different charts. This is one of the charts that we have. Basically, we've got a portfolio chart. We are building a kind of Ovella now. I'm not sure. Sometimes we are experimenting a bit because we don't know where it is going to bring all these things. And if it works, we take it. If we don't work, we don't take it. But basically, we've got a portfolio chart right now. And then we've got also for 3 of the different value streams, we've got also this, we've got Kanbans, and then we've got this, we call them comm cells, these communication cells. It's basically what it is doing is understanding what it is the backlog, what we have in work in progress, and who is responsible, as well as the interdependency. So it's a mixture of things. But I think the important thing here is that it helps us a lot to measure the value that we are creating, how efficient we are in that value and in that flow, or if we are very much, we've got a lot of WIP, and then we can, I mean, and who are the blockers of that work in progress. Now, basically, we take actions in the short terms to take out those roadblocks. No, one of the things that we are going to start measuring is the cost of opportunity of the delay, or the cost of delay, because this is something that we are not very good at. Actually, we're pretty bad at. I mean, we are an insurance company and we've got money to spend. And then managing the cost of delay and putting that urgency, I think it's something that it is very important in the next years, in order to be able to create that sense of urgency, and link that with the objectives and the plan of the company. It is going to be one of the most important things probably in 2020, because that is going to give us a lot more clarity in where we invest the money and what we take back from it. At the moment, and probably from a lot of your companies, it's going to be quite similar. The financial planning cycle goes one way, the HR planning cycle goes another way, the project and IT investment cycle goes, sometimes they are completely disconnected or they happen at the same time, so it's impossible to interrelate what each of those needs. So basically you need, I need X million dollars for investment, and so no, you have X minus 10%, because we in the financial cycle, we have decided this. So how we bring all this together is going to be one of the key things. And the change for this, it's also making sure that everybody in the company is aware of those KPIs or those objectives, and we follow them in a consistent way every day, every week, etc. Because there is a big disconnect between the plan and what we actually do at the end of the year. And then what's next for us in Zurich? I think we've come from a different approach sometimes in terms of like, we've come from the business, not from the IT side, in order to talk about like agility and business agility, because we believe it's a change in the way, in the mindset of the company. And we saw very difficult that the IT department could make the change for the whole company. I think that was counterproductive. So we basically started with the business. We have IT involved, but we started to changing the minds of the business. And we started to do it also, I think it is important to mention, in a holistic way, not just putting methods or tools. You put Kanban, you put Jira, you put whatever you want, because that is going to affect only part of what you are doing. And what we want, I mean, the problem that we saw at the beginning, it was an industry problem. It was a problem that is or you act radically differently, or you will be in trouble in 5 to 10 years time down the road. No, so basically, I think that was the change, or the way we approach it. And what we see it forward is, first of all, we need to incorporate those back office functions that currently they are working with the current methods, they are not measuring anything. And we want them to get them on board, at least with Kanban, measuring what they are doing and starting the conversation of how they can improve. Because at the end of the day, Kanban is only the method of continuous improvement to start a conversation based on not what someone thinks, but based on facts and what they say to us. No? So first of all, bringing those folks into the conversation right now. The second piece is we want to expand these new multidisciplinary teams into 2 or 3 more teams based on the value stream, on what the customer, or the group of products that serve those customers, and having those teams. But that's obviously something that is going to create more expense base, because it's something a little bit more expensive, at least at the beginning. But we believe that we need to do it we cannot do it for all the company, but we need to do it for certain teams that it makes sense. And basically we have started with those business teams that are requiring more change, as well as those business teams that are more prepared. Because even though you see that there is a need from a market perspective or market context to do it, sometimes you see that some of the teams are not prepared to do that. So basically, the idea is step by step expanding those teams. And then the third thing, from my perspective, is how we engage much more with IT in this conversation. I mean, IT has been part of all of this, but at a certain point, we need to understand what it means in terms of like how we create more flexibility in our IT team in order to be able to deliver more closely to what our customers want, and more quicker, because and this is a conversation that it's not an easy conversation, but we need to understand what parts needs to be internalized or externalized of the software development and all this kind of stuff. I think that is the conversation for 2020, and how we deal with that conversation with our IT team is going to be the success or not of this. That's it. Questions?
How far do you plan ahead? How far are you looking ahead at these next steps? Because, you know, this is what's to come. How far ahead are you planning?
Well, I don't have a certain time frame, but we believe this is going to happen in 2020, part of it. I mean, probably this is not something that will take 1 year or 2 years. It's going to take many years. We've been 1.5 years into this trip right now. I think bringing these conversations, I think it's going to take a few years. But my target is to have a lot of the back office on board already in 2020, and part of how we integrate IT and the technology into this new way of doing also in 2020.
It's a question about your business and not specifically about Kanban and agility, okay? You have been talking that, you know, all these changes are affecting the insurance company and the like. So my question precisely is, you have some business units, I understand, that are going to be more affected and more rapidly with this, you know, transformation of the marketplace. And how do you detect which are the business units more affected, okay, for this disruption that is happening in the market? And how about data collection? I mean, how do you get the insights from the market that you need to change? Because perhaps what you feel that you need to change is not, or maybe not, what the market is telling you.
So as I said at the beginning, or a part of the presentation is, so what we see is a lot of the change that before was coming from the more direct distribution. Now it's happening all over the value chain of the insurance company. So I would say, and that means it's about distribution, because a lot of the investment is coming from the distribution piece in terms of like insurtechs and so on. But we see, by instance, claims as one of the sources of change in the insurance industry, both in terms of like process automation, but also in terms of like, and that goes back to your second point, which is about like how you use data in order to maximize the impact of this. No, we at the end of the day, the claims is basically 80% or 70-something% of the cost of the whole insurance. No, the rest is like expenses and benefits. What we are seeing is that being smarter in the way we manage our claims and the use of data to do so, it's going to be also a huge competitive advantage. So I would say it is affecting everything, but I would say distribution, from direct distribution to how we operate with our agents and brokers, because it is also changing the whole setup of brokers and agent channels. And then claims is the third piece that we believe it's going to change rapidly. How we integrate data into those decisions, that's the big question. I think well, we have started doing some stuff on process automation. I think it is going to move into every day collecting more information from external databases, and that PSD2 is quite an interesting opportunity. But we are talking about like including. A lot of companies are doing this already, but credit scoring in terms of how we do underwriting. Also, the corporate part of the insurance sector is going to be heavily disruptive. The corporate products are very manual historically, and they are based on the expertise of the underwriter. All this piece complemented by external databases and public databases or other types of information will make us much more or much richer in the use of the information to make wiser decisions, I would say. I don't know if I'm answering, but more or less it's a very difficult question, that one. Yeah.